Hey everyone, let me share my window and get going. All right, I'm Vinay. I'm the co-founder and CEO of Brevian, and I'm really excited to share how Brevian helps supercharge go-to-market teams. But first, let's start with some hard facts. 40 to 60% of your pipeline actually evaporates mid-funnel. And this is actually a deal execution problem because taking a deal through its various stages from the first meeting to close, doing that expertly actually takes time, effort, knowledge, and persistence, right? And so what we see is that the top 10% of reps actually drive 65% of your revenue. This is from a report Clary did last year. And 50% of your reps are just driving 7.6%. There's this big chasm between the ones who are really performing and the middle. And that chasm today exists because your product evolves faster than reps can learn and apply that in the field. At the same time, leaders have minimal visibility into why deals are actually won, lost, or why do they even stall. And it's very hard to transform learnings once you have them into the field such that it actually changes rep behavior across an organization. If you're a sales leader, you can empathize with that. And this is the problem Brevian addresses. Brevian is a sales intelligence platform. We connect to your GTM sources and we create a knowledge graph of your products, your use cases, pain points, and we develop this deep intelligence that then is accessible to your reps and assists them from start of the deal to close, while enabling your leaders and ops teams to get deep visibility into the field and the metrics that are driving your revenue. So let's take a look at the product. I'm going to start with the first meeting, right? Let's say this is a meeting I landed with the CRO of a company because I wanted to sell them Brevian. Now, typically, when you land a meeting with a prospect, you tend to do research and build a hypothesis. I know it takes me about 30 to 45 minutes to look up all the relevant information and form an opinion. With Brevian, I get that information instantly. The minute a meeting lands on my calendar, I get this screen and I can go and look into it. Now, it gives me some general information about the company, but it also finds some interesting strategic information. Like in this case, I found out that this CRO is at a company which just received a $400 million investment from an equity firm, which means like, okay, there's some strong ARR growth here. They also acquired a company in the ASPM space, which is interesting because which means they're going to have potentially a new sales team coming in. They're also hiring. This is important information for me to form an opinion. And Brevian also suggests why this matters to my conversation, right? So in this case, it's very clear, hitting growth targets. It's a complex platform level story. So, it's going to be, reps are going to have to be technical. This is all important information for me to approach the conversation. Apart from that, it also gives me stakeholder research across different people who are attending and might be attending the call, and what are their likely pain points that I should, kind of be prepared for when I talk to them. This is really useful information because, a lot of times I discover things that I would have never, gone and found out on my own. And so it's really good. And then we also surface up pain points and discovery questions. This is basically the bucket questions into different categories. I tend to look at this and, pick maybe 3 or 4 that I think are really interesting that I wouldn't have thought of and bring them up on the call, right? But this gives you a nice little roll up of how you should kind of engage this first conversation. And then because this is the first convo, it's the meeting outcomes, like what you should be driving towards. In this case, it's, strategic priorities and fit, validate the pain point around, their MEDDPICC frameworks and things like that. And also, define a high impact hypothesis. You can obviously customize this based on your stages, but this is what I get. The value of this feature is that it is basically, democratizes the meeting prep across all your reps. No longer is this something only your best reps do well. Every rep has access to this information. Now, once I'm in a meeting, Brevian actually surfaces up prompts for me as I'm approaching the conversation. In this case, the CRO basically mentioned at the 4-minute mark, as you can see, the CRO mentioned that, hey, we are looking at Chorus and their AI features. And I just it was not top of mind for me on how that positioning for us works. And Brevian came in and basically prompted this right in the moment and said, here's what you should say. And here is 3 talking points for you, very clearly highlighted, so I can form my sentences around it. But also brings up a nice, sort of real-time battle card that I can use to compare Brevian to Chorus live on the call while I'm having that conversation. And it also provides me a, follow-up question that I can ask while I'm in the meeting, which is really good. For example, he did say that Chorus isn't that great for me right now. What specifically feels like is missing? This is going to drive that conversation towards the gaps that we can help address. It also tells you why it's asking you to ask this follow-up question so that you can use that. Now, throughout your meeting, Brevian is going to analyze the context, and at key moments, it's going to prop open. Maybe every 3 to 4 minutes, you might see a prompt, which will help you strategically navigate the pain and move towards a value proposition that Brevian can address. This is really helpful for not just new reps who are ramping up, but for even experienced reps as new products launch and your sales team is trying to help everybody to sell the new product. This helps with all the prompting in the meeting so they can execute it. Now, right after the call, we produce a call summary, action item, meeting notes, because we have our own bot. I'm not going to talk about, there are many features here that we can discuss, but the key one I'd like to highlight is around MEDDPICC. We use MEDDPICC as a framework in our company. You may use Spice, Paramedic, whatever, but Brevian extracts all the information about this from the call, but also from past calls, and then it merges that information. So no longer is it like, hey, this is what I learned on this call. We maintain your MEDDPICC across all of that, and then we also help you easily update it in your CRM. With a single click, I can go in, look at my action items, summaries. I can generate the MEDDPICC, and I can get a nice little nifty interface to go make any edits if I want, and then I can click push to CRM, right? We support Salesforce, HubSpot, and others. So this makes it really easy for your reps to finish a call, learn what happened, figure out next steps, send the follow-ups, update your CRM, and move on. But that's not my favorite part about this, right? What I really like about this portion is that I like to know how I did on a call right after. And because Brevian not only understands your product context and what your product actually does, but it knows what good looks like in your company and what great looks like, it gives me feedback on how that call went. Not only does it give me highlights and lowlights, but it actually can give me feedback on elements that other products don't, because they don't understand the product. For example, let me bring up product positioning here, right? I got a 2.0. Well, okay, I'm not a great sales guy, I suppose, but the reason it gave me that is because when the customer brought up Chorus, I just mentioned like, yeah, those are like pre-LLM companies, it's a different architecture. But what that didn't do is exactly explain why Brevian is better. Just saying the architecture is old is not sufficient. So what Brevian said is, hey, like, that's okay, but next time, just say Chorus excels at post-call review, whereas Brevian adds real-time in-call guidance. That's the key distinction here that you're supposed to call out. Now, imagine if your sales enablement team or your central teams are producing content about how to position, what's our benefits, competitive battle cards, it shows up in every rep's console in Brevian, so that they are kind of you're changing rep behavior and getting them to perform like your best reps. We rate on 10 different dimensions, but this can also be customized to your liking. So there are dimensions you care about. Now I'm going to go into a little bit of a as the deal executes, reps use our chat interface, which you see in front of you, to not only strategize on how to proceed in a deal, what are the risks of the deal, but also figure out what went wrong in deals that close. Like, I guess do thumbs up if you lost a deal in the past, which you thought was going well and didn't know why. It happened to us recently, right? And so what we did is we went into Brevian and we put in like, hey, why did I lose this deal? By the way, these real deals. We just anonymized it to say Acme. And so I went in and asked like, hey, why did we lose Acme? And Brevian analyzes the entire context across several meetings and gives me a full comprehensive report on it. Now we won't go into everything, but but what I want to call out in this loss report is actually this piece, right? Which is, what are the loss reasons? There was no explicit, we chose your competitor, or like, this is a reason why we're not going forward. None of that was there. They just kind of stopped responding. But what Brevian has done is identified like, hey, the reasons are because of your demo, their existing stack. And, Jordan was probing a lot of questions, and there was a hidden agenda, message there that we didn't catch. For example, they had an overlapping custom GPT stack. They had used GPTs to build, rubber band together a bunch of stuff, and it was their baby. They kept asking questions about, how does this compare? How does this differentiate? And so what we didn't clearly do in this call is articulate why Brevian is so much better than rubber banding together custom GPTs. And the reason is, keeping this context, knowledge, and learnings up to date consistently is very hard to do with GPTs. And clearly a sales organization cannot use it. It's great for individuals. And so we were not able to articulate on that on this call, and it came through, and Brevian said, you didn't do that. And hence there were unresolved differentiations in their do it by approach. And that's why you kind of lost this deal. This was a revelation for us, I think. And when we learned this, the first thing that we did is figure out, okay, how do we address this next time? How do I, do the better? And how do I produce content and collateral that will help other reps not do the same thing, right? And so what we did right after is we basically went and said, okay, let us know what we can do better next time. And for me, I love getting feedback and coaching. And what we realized is it clearly articulated, specifically for me, it gave me a full report and said, listen, there are patterns that are showing up that are not improving.